We can't hear you, Diana.
Thank you.
We are live.
Thank you very much, Roland. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Board of Education special business meeting. Today is Wednesday, June 18th, 2025. The time is now 7:04. With me this evening, I have board members Sherry McCready-Pritchett, Ashley Gulyas, Colin Hostin, Howard White, Janine Randolph, Jasmine Pressey, Kara Nelson-Bakey, Mary Ellen Flaherty Ludwig, Dr. Estrella, and her team. Did I miss anyone else? I don't see Mayor Rilling this evening on here. And with that, if we can please do the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And with that, we will open up the meeting. Right now, it would be the superintendent to answer any board member pending questions or any comments at this time on the FY26 operating budget.
Thank you, Chairperson Carpio. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening. So I actually do have a question to get us started here, and that is around the budget line items that I think have been circulating and some of the comments that we've heard repeatedly about Dr. Estrella's salary and a 12% increase. And back in the beginning of the year, Dr. Estrella, you made it very clear to us that you would not be seeking any kind of salary increase this year, and neither would anybody within your cabinet. So I'm hoping that we can shed some light on this and get some clarity around what exactly that 12% number means, because frankly, it is kind of confusing, I think even to some of us board members. So Linda, are you able to explain like what that 12% number means against that line item?
Yes, good evening, board. So typically what happens is when we approve the budget, we approve what's referred to as the original budget, which is the original budget number. And then throughout the year, the board makes transfers in and out of line items, and those are accounted for in a column that's referred to as a revised budget. So any changes. So for example, when you approve the budget at the beginning of the year for out-of-district SPED tuition, you approved a budget of about $10.2 million. And we had talked about that this budget is less than what we anticipated. And so throughout the year, you have been transferring into that line. So the revised, for that example, the revised out-of-district line is now about 11.2 based on the transfers. However, when we compare budgets year over year, so even though, for example, this year, we are fully funding out-of-district tuition at about 11.5 million, that 11.5 million is compared to the original budget of 10 million, not the revised budget that included transfers of 10.5. So along those same lines, when you negotiate, when you approve the budget in May, at the time, we post or we have the superintendent salary that's at that time. From the day that the budget is adopted, you then enter into negotiations with the superintendent for her new contract, which includes benefits and so forth. So then throughout the year, we revise that number to show what that new amount is to reflect on the contracted amount on the new contract. And therefore, even though the superintendent is retaining the same level of compensation in the current contract, when you compare what's in the budget now, it compares that to what you approved in May, which was prior to this contract, and that's why you see that increase. So it's almost not an apples to apples. And so in the budget column year round, we update what's referred to as the revised budget. And so although in the budget book right now, because we do those transfers towards the end of the year, But when you compare the revised budget for that line item to her original budget for this year, you won't see a 12% increase. You'll see somewhere along the line of a 2% increase, which takes into account for, Connecticut state taxes and federal taxes and how those are based off. So we can provide a schedule with revised budget column, and that's what explains the variance between that. And it's not just for this particular line item, it's for all other line items. So SPED is a good example. So if
Okay.
you were to compare the revised SPED number to what you have in FY '26, you will see a number that correlates more than what the original budget, because we make these changes throughout the year based on new information, or in this case, based on a revision of a contract.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Linda.
Can-
Before we continue, I'd like to record that Mayor Harry Rilling has joined the meeting.
Can I ask a follow-up about what Linda just shared? I thought though what we approved in May, at that point, we already knew that there was no salary increase.
No, this was I'm comparing this to May of last year, of May 2024.
Got
So
it. Okay.
in May 2024, when you approved the budget, this was before the contract has been negotiated. But you're right, this May, when you approved this, there was agreement for no salary increases. And so that line item does reflect that flat salary other than increases in state tax and Connecticut taxes. But the variance is comparing it to what you had approved in May of 2024. And that's where you see that change.
Linda, just one more on this. Are you saying that if we were to see that line item today, that it would be around 2%, not 12%?
Correct. And I can circulate another schedule that has that revision. In fact, I was reviewing that schedule today because we're just now completing the series of transfers for FY '25. We don't always do them at the beginning of the year, but we do them as we go throughout the year. And therefore, if you were to see that today, it would show that that variance. And if you'd like me to, I can actually forward that to you so that you have that for your records as well.
So I'm happy that that's in public record, because you can see how for the untrained eye, which I'm one of them, to large budgets of this magnitude, it is confusing to see 12% when I personally know that she said she was not accepting a raise this year. Thank you.
May I ask why it couldn't have been changed up until now for more clarity before this point in time?
It depends on when those schedules are run and when we do. As you know, all transfers go before the board, so we do transfers once a month. The last time, I think when you received that budget packet back in January, we had not yet updated the revised budget column, because all that does is it just moves monies between lines, and it's really more of a timing of how often we refresh that schedule. But I think for future reference, we'll pay closer attention to that and possibly refresh that column as frequent as possible, because even yesterday at your board meeting, there were some transfers that were approved that aren't reflected in that revised, because these transfers occur throughout the year. But I'd be happy to provide that updated schedule. I actually shared that schedule earlier today with Jared on the finance side, and we ran those revisions this morning, and so that would be reflected. And I can forward you that email that I shared with him earlier on
Thanks,
that.
Linda. Yeah, going
Thank-
forward, we'll
yeah.
just, like you said, just refresh it. As the finance chair, we can definitely work on that together to make sure that that's more up to date so that we don't have any confusion. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate that explanation, Linda. I do agree updating that sooner or more frequently would help with clarity and transparency, both for us and the public.
Dr. Estrella, can you please explain why the request from the board in reference to reinstating the special ed supervisor position was not granted?
I don't understand the question. So
You don't understand the question?
So
You
when,
say- I'm sorry, you said you didn't understand the question?
correct.
Okay, what I'm asking is, we met earlier and you were contacted in reference to what we felt that we wanted to present as far as reinstating the special ed supervised position, all 7.
Okay.
We were informed that you stated no. So I'm asking you, can you please explain why you said no to that?
So what,
And Dr. Shreya, if I can just add to that question and add a little bit of context too. I know that you and Lunda did share some math and some numbers with us about the idea of reinstating those SPED positions. And so, I thank you for that. And I want to thank Lunda and the entire team for, getting us, I think a long way on this budget. I think we're almost there. It's been a tough season, but I think that, in terms of trying to satisfy as many of the requests and feedback that we've gotten as possible, we're close. I think this SPED part is the last piece. And, as you answer that question, I know that on the math you shared, we weren't able to reinstate the 4 positions. My question just before the meeting was whether a little extra funding from the city might be able to help us do that. And, I don't know if the mayor's on and can share
sure.
any light on that.
I don't know if you can hear me or not.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, well, I spoke to Colin and I realized what the main issues are with some of the parents and some of the unions. And Colin, I told you that we would provide an extra 0.5. We'd provide an extra $500,000 to make sure this happens. I guess.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, no, that was a very generous offer, and so I wanted to just get that in before the superintendent answered Howard's question.
So first,
Wait, so we're talking about 2 additional?
You're talking about putting it back to the 7?
Back to the 7. That's what it sounds like. That's what we would love.
so,
Does the 500 cover it? I don't think that covered it. That was the issue.
correct.
It's
So-
like
I thought
846,
it was,
right?
I thought it was 8.
So the total amount to be able to reinstate, give me 1 second. Let me pull the numbers because I have the chart.
84507 for all.
Correct. So the response to Mr. White's question, the answer was not that I stated no. The concern was that we didn't have the funding to be able to reinstate all of the special education supervisors. Given what Colin articulated in terms of the $500,000, and Mr. Mayor, thank you so much for the additional funding, which will go a long way. That would allow us to have 2 more special education assistant directors so that we can keep consistent with the titles that we had outlined before. That would reinstate 2 more of the special education supervisors, which will be great. Unfortunately, it won't allow us to reinstate all 4, but it would allow us to reinstate 2 more given the funding allotted.
Okay, so with that, to hearing that, thank you for that, for the mayor as well. But the SQR, those positions, they should be able to, we can do something about that to be able to bring that 1 person back as well.
So we eliminated already the school quality review education administrator. There was only 1 person doing that work. That title was eliminated already. We also eliminated the Director of School Improvement, also, so that we could balance the budget. And that was addressed in the 2 million reduction that was set as an expectation when we got the $6 million from the city. There was a question about two individuals that support the data and analytics team in the district that were philanthropically funded. And we have a partnership with a number of our private funders that are paying. They were paying for both positions, now they're paying for one. The expectation that this work continues this year. And eliminating that position would then eliminate money that we're getting from these partners that are helping fund these roles.
Well, okay, I'm hoping that is all good. However, when it comes to programming with school environment and working closely with schools, with the students, you know, we need to figure out what we need to do to make sure that, you know, that part of it is successful, because without that, it's not going to be good for us. It really isn't, you know. And I just think that, you know, the main thing is when we're looking at these cuts, you know, we should be thoroughly looking at it from a more physical standpoint and look at it from a physical standpoint as far as our students are concerned. And I just don't think we did that here. I really don't.
So our focus has always been, Mr. White, to focus the work around what is best for students. As you know, that, for instance, Kimberly, who's one of the people that was philanthropically funded, has been doing the work around the portrait of a graduate that directly impacts the work we do with schools and students. And we've had great success in the implementation of a portrait of a graduate and the expectations that we are setting for ourselves as individuals that are supporting the well-being of our students, as well as for the system across, in having the tools that they need to effectively implement practices that will enhance the work that happens in the classroom. So these individuals are playing a critical role in the work that is directly impacting students. And given the feedback that we've gotten from the field, the implementation of this work has been successful because of how they have integrated these practices.
Thank you, but I stand firm to what I said. I stand firm to that. I don't think we're doing a good job when it comes to those decisions as far as the classroom setting and decision-making is concerned. I stand firm to that, but I appreciate you answering my question, but I stand firm to that. Thank you.
Thank you for the feedback.
Can I ask a follow-up?
Claire,
Sorry.
sorry,
sorry.
Ashley.
I had a follow-up. So thank you, Mayor, for stepping in with this additional funding. That is huge. So we're now talking about using that funding to create 2 additional special education assistant directors. What if those assistant director positions were all reverted back to being special education administrators as they were before? Would that give us the money to have all 7 special education administrators?
How many could we have with that?
Yeah. Like, rather than making 2 new assistant directors, if we then went back to having more special ed administrators, because I know partway through this past year, we went from 5 special ed admin to 7 because the need was there. So I'm wondering if that's an option as well with this money.
The salary difference is so minimal that it wouldn't yield having all 7. It still wouldn't give us enough to do that. Lunda, can you confirm?
Yes, we would fall short of fully funding just from the $500,000. If we were to do that, we would have to look at reductions in other areas to make it work, if that's what we did.
How much are we talking in reductions?
Do you want to do the math? Because let me see.
I could do some quick math. I think we were at 500, 800. We may be looking at maybe around the 250K range to bring everything back. So we would have to find another 250K to fully reinstate back to your point, Ashley, to the 7 that we had in those prior roles, including the additional funding from the mayor.
So is there funding, I know it's not what we're looking for, but would it be, how many would it cover? Would it be like 5?
I think we'd be able to get to like 6.
Hmm.
We'd be close to 6. So we would be, if we go back to the original, we would be down roughly one position.
I mean, 6 is better than 5. It's not as good as 7, but it's better than 5.
Agreed.
And then can we just clarify, regardless of what we call them, these are individuals who will still be doing the same role within the school buildings?
With the special education assistant director, there were other responsibilities that we were infusing based on what we saw the field needed, particularly in professional learning and development. Rob, can you speak to some of the differences that we infused in order to address some of the other needs that we had in the field?
Sure. So the assistant directors and ed admins would be supporting schools. They would each have X number of schools in support, and they would be providing professional learning to all of the teachers, to the staff in the building. They would also be supporting PPTs that would have advocates or lawyers. And so I think that one of the biggest shifts currently, the special ed supervisors are sitting in all of the PPTs, and the shift would be that they wouldn't be sitting in all of the PPTs. They'd be sitting in more of the more challenging PPTs, but then they would be providing a lot more professional development to the schools. But they would still be supporting schools. I think that that is one of the big important pieces to share, is that these aren't central office positions. These are positions that would be supporting schools.
And Rob, to clarify something that you and I had talked about some handful of weeks ago, I've completely lost track of time. Even those who don't have lawyers and advocates can still always request to have one of these
100%.
admin part of the meeting.
That is correct. Anyone can always request to have a special ed assistant director, an ed admin at a PPT.
And I think that's a important thing to highlight, that we also have the education administrators that also are part of the team that will also be supporting in the work, and that have been as well.
And then the related piece I was going to ask about is if the reinstatement of those 2 people would affect the administrative RIF process, for example, with a couple of the APs.
It would reduce the RIF process.
Thank you.
Which to me feels like another reason where to try to get up to 6 or 7 if we can do that.
Well, I want to absolutely thank Mayor Rilling for the $500,000 for the additional sped positions. I agree that 6 is better than 5, and I know that this is a very difficult budget season. And if it actually helps with the RIF process too, that's another positive during these conversations.
One of the things that we were working on this afternoon, and I think it will help resolve to Ashley and Mr. White's and Howard's concern. We were trying to reinstate, so we have an AP that was eliminated from the early childhood program, and we're trying to reinstate that position by creating a role that an itinerant AP that was focused on pre-K and elementary special education support. So that we could use some of our IDEA funds to support that. If but the thing is, we can't supplant the SPED supervisor title there. We could, if we had the SPED assistant director title, then we would be able to place somebody there. But given that we are keeping the same title, that wouldn't be possible. But I just wanted the board to know that we were trying to reinstate that one AP that was eliminated by creating an itinerant role with a new job description that would allow us then to place that person in one of our grants. So that would be another position that we would be including that would support the work and would reduce the bumping and rifting. The challenge is that finding 250,000 would be a challenge. So we would only be able to bring, like Linda said, 6 back, plus that assistant principal that we would be transitioning into the IDA grant with the new job description. And we have been collaborating with NASA, and we managed to achieve an agreement on the job description. So we are able to move forward if the board decides that that's an option that they're comfortable with.
So can I ask again? So the SQR, is those positions no longer in existence? So that's off. So those positions are no longer there.
The one SQR position that we had was eliminated.
So there's 2 left.
There were no 3 SQR positions. There was only one SQR position, which
Only
was
one?
Yeah, the education administrator for school quality. And that was eliminated, as well as, like I said, the director of school improvement. And that was what helped us alongside CEP and other components to get to that $2 million reduction that was expected as part of the $6 million that we were getting from the city and state.
Mary Ellen, go ahead.
I would like to thank Mayor Rilling again for this infusion of extra money. And I want to voice that 6 is better than 5. And I am very happy with the creative work you just mentioned, Alex, in trying to get somebody who's focused on early childhood and its special needs onto the onto a grant. So that's the kind of work that I really appreciate. That's where we want to go, just as much as we can do to get more professionals, more teachers, more special ed administrators into where they need to be with the kids. Just a word on, I've probably attended hundreds of PPTs, hundreds in my teaching career. And I always felt it was important to have that extra professional person besides the teacher of the child, and then there's always a general ed teacher there too. So that is really important to have a right tone. It's a legal document to have set an IEP, and everyone at the table is so important. So I applaud having 6 rather than 5.
And in the spirit of gratitude, I want to just reiterate Mayor Rilling's commitment to the schools, but also Senator Duff, who, coming in with some funding from the state here at a point where, no other school district in the state is getting this kind of extra support. Really appreciate that level of commitment. I want to reiterate this board's kind of commitment to honoring the the elements of that funding, the contingencies within state law. Starting with the $2 million reduction, some policy changes. We are going to hold off on the superintendent's contract until after next fiscal year. So I think it is a two-way street, and I'm glad to see that we're all trying our best to walk that road.
Can you hear me? I'm not sure if you can hear me.
We can hear you, Mayor.
Yes, thank you,
Okay.
Mayor.
Well, I want to thank Senator Duff. This has been a very, very difficult budget season. And just before this meeting, I spoke with Mr. Houghton, and we talked about the possibility of adding another $500,000. He made a good point for doing that, a good case. And I know I spoke with Senator Duff before this meeting. So the main thing is we want to get through this budget season, making sure we do everything we can to get student-facing positions back in place, to make sure that we do everything we can to provide the best education we can for our children. And that's always been the number one for me. It's always been the number one for Senator Duff. And I know it's also been the number one for Dr. Estrella and the Board of Education. So this extra money, we will provide for it. I want to say that I applaud the City of Norwalk department heads who lived within their budget, but not only that, lives within their budget so much that we're able to find the extra funding that we can now transfer over to the Board of Education budget. That's it.
Thank you, Mayor. Any other questions?
Thank you.
The board before we continue?
Thank you.
Harry, so I just want to be sure. So that 500 extra you was talking about, is that part of what you contribute from the city, or that's additional?
From the city.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, all good. So before I make a motion on the approval of the FY26 operating budget reconciliation, I am giving time to the board if anybody has any comments to make at this time.
Just know that the motion can include the amendment around the SPED.
Yes, I will say that when we vote.
And that amendment is going to be adding back 6 positions?
Yes,
Plus-
that's what I wrote down.
Okay, plus this new early childhood / helping like special ed specialist AP.
It would be
those-
the itinerant assistant principal for pre-K and special education.
Thank you.
And
Okay.
then we need to figure out how the riffing process is going to work from here.
That is a matter that is bound by the contract, and once the budget is approved, we will be working with the different collective bargaining groups, because every bargaining group has a different process that is stipulated in the contract, and we will work with them to go through the RIF process.
Okay, thank you.
Any board comments?
So, yes, Chair Carpio, I do have a statement that I would like to deliver before you call for the vote. This has been my 4th budget cycle, and it has by far been the most difficult. What I want for people to know before I vote is that I do not take this decision lightly by any means. In fact, this budget cycle has been one of the most challenging and profound experiences of my life. As an elected official, I understand that within our community, there are many different points of view and priorities, and all should be considered by me. Given the situation we're in, I wish we could all go back in time and all do some things differently, but we cannot. And so here we are, less than 2 weeks away from July 1, our legal deadline to vote on a reconciled budget. And while the public may wish for us to push this vote out further into next week, the facts of the matter are that we as a board, along with Dr. Estrella, have spent most of the day today, following last night's meeting where we heard feedback, trying to once again figure out how to save the things that matter most to people, the positions, the placements, the school communities. But we are at an impasse. And so I feel we must move this forward tonight. As a board colleague said earlier today, one cannot walk through a brick wall. At this juncture, I feel it is not right to continue this out and to have our teachers, our administrators, our central office staff, our families, our kids hanging in this limbo. We've run out of options. Well, actually, now we have a new option. Thank you very much, Mayor Rilling, for this commitment of the additional funding. This is a wonderful surprise. But I will be voting yes tonight on this budget as long as we will be able to include this $500,000 into this budget for 25-26. Thank you.
Again, I thank Colin Hosen and Senator Duff. We realize how important this is and how important it is to get through this budget process so that we can now focus on the mission at hand of providing the best education we can for our children.
Well, thank you, all of you, for working
Chair
together.
Carpio, I have some comments to make.
Okay, Sherry, and then Mary Ellen.
Mayor, first, I want to thank you for that infusion of funds that will help us to restore some of those positions. And to the public, I want to say that I appreciate their spirit, their passion, and their efforts to come out to let us know what is important to them. At this time, for me, this budget reconciliation demonstrates that it will support the majority of our students and staff. Is it perfect? No, but it is my expectation that we will continue to monitor and assess progress and make modifications if needed. At the same time, it is my expectation that the partnership with the unions will strengthen and continue as the administration continues to collaborate with all of the unions going forward. That's it. So I do intend on supporting the budget.
Thank you. Mary Ellen?
I would like to share with my colleagues and with the public that June 3rd, the June 3rd BOE meeting changed me deeply. We at the Board of Ed have been tasked with school budget. My goal since the original infusion of money from the state and the city, and I'm very happy to hear an additional infusion of $500,000 tonight, that my original purpose was to return all 80 people who had been cut. We've been able to get more than 60 back, but my heart is breaking for those others that were cut, who were hard-working, high-performing professionals. They deserve better. But here we are. If I thought delaying the vote would help produce more possibility for more teachers to be reinstated, I would, but right now I think this is where we are. I, with a heavy heart, am voting yes on this budget, but further I want you to know that I will work with all my force to help restructure a more open, a more understandable budget in the future. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I have a statement.
Hi, Jasmine. Go ahead.
Okay. First, I'll say again the same sentiment. Thank you, Mayor Rilling, for the additional funding. That is a great help, and we accept it wholeheartedly. And I know that those positions that will be reinstated appreciate it too. So thank you for, as always, keeping the children first. I just want to start off by saying, as you know, this is my first year joining the board. And I want to thank all my colleagues up here, as well as the district leadership, with your helping me understand this process. I know I had a lot of questions. I had the same question multiple times, but I definitely felt supported through this. As many of you said, this budget cycle, that hasn't been like no other. Also, thank you to the dedicated staff and also the passionate parents, as well as, all of us may have wanted to have things that have gone differently or just more time. The time is up. And regarding the budget tonight, it's not ideal, but given all the time and the hours spent, it's the best option at this time. I'm thrilled to see that the band and strings have been reinstated, as well as a number of school social workers and school counselors. Mental health is really important, and we need those professionals in the schools addressing those. And as we heard, from all of the parents and the children, that music is also an outlet for them, for their mental health. So we have the counselors, some counselors back, and social workers in the music program. So that is great. I just want to say I just look forward to monitoring the progress of the decisions that were made in this budget and getting creative. I think also being able to see what just happened, of all of us chiming in and making, getting a better situation, a better outcome. So I just hope that we all just continue to be creative, be communicative, and just continue to just monitor the progress and make adjustments going forward as needed to make sure that the students are in a productive environment. Thank you.
Dr. E?
Just a quick thing, Jasmine, to your point around mental health services, I think we didn't highlight well yesterday the fact that we restored all of our schools counselors in elementary school, and I thought that that was a big thing to celebrate. Like you, I believe mental health is critical, particularly given what our students have experienced over the course of the past few years, and how it's been articulated that there is a crisis nationwide in around mental health, and we need to ensure that our students are receiving the care they need so they can succeed in the classroom. So I just wanted to highlight that piece because I don't think we highlighted that yesterday, and I think it's important to highlight.
Thank you.
Diana, do you mind if I share?
No, go ahead.
Thanks. I don't know that I'll be as prepared or eloquent as others. Today has been, but I want to be really honest and transparent. It's been a roller coaster of a day. I woke up this morning ready to push us to meet next week because I did not feel ready. That said, I also very much understand that pushing to next week would give very little time to reinstate teachers. And it became clear as we talked that pushing to next week likely wouldn't change very much. And so, to be honest, I was prepared to vote no this evening because while I'm absolutely thrilled that all of the music has been reinstated, I was feeling really frustrated and defeated regarding some other decisions, including the special ed administrator roles. So I'm grateful, Mayor Rilling, for the influx of funding, and Dr. Estrella for being willing to look back at this and get us back to 6 of those roles. I think that that is really critically important. And while I think that things are not perfect, there's no way that we're going to pass a perfect budget. I echo the sentiments that we're going to monitor everything very closely. I'm going to really focus on what I can do to help us to be more clear and transparent for the public. And so with all that has transpired this evening and over the course of this whole day, I will be voting yes. We need to reinstate our teachers. They need to know their roles. And as Mary Ellen said, I am deeply saddened that we can't find a way to reinstate all of those who are being cut. So that's my ineloquent roller coaster of a day that I want to be transparent and share my thought process.
Well, I just wanted to say, coming into this, I've been so torn, and it's been the hardest decision that I've ever had to make on this board, and maybe ever. I feel like we've made some mistakes during this process that, we've tried to resolve sometimes a little too late. I apologize for that. But we really have torn through the budget. It's not a perfect document. We can't, with the money that we have, we can't replace everyone, unfortunately. And like everyone is saying, I'm deeply saddened by it because it's just a dismal type of thought to get into. But thank you, Mayor Rilling, very much for this extra money that helps make this process a little easier in reconciling this budget, because I, like Ashley, was on a roller coaster today, having different thoughts. But I don't think we can go another week with an unreconciled budget, because the teachers and administrators will still have to wait and see if they have jobs, and it's just too much for them. And understandably, all of them won't wait. So which I think is going to be, not reconciling puts the district at risk of losing more teachers and staff than, the 20 or so that we're already up to lose. So I too have come to the decision to vote yes on the budget.
Okay, so first of all, I'd like to take this opportunity to most importantly thank the parents in the community. I am really big on community as well, and being involved like I've been involved over the years, working in this field and outside this field as well. I understand. No defense to anyone as far as your feelings are concerned and how you express your feeling. I truly appreciate that. Only thing I ask is moving forward that, keep that same energy. However, keep the energy when you'll be able to share and voice your concerns and your opinions at the meetings as well. I think that will be truly helpful by you guys turnout and coming out. You made it possible. You really did. Whether some don't want to accept it for what it is, you truly made it possible. And on behalf of, I'd like to thank Bob and the mayor for their contribution again. Clearly, I was on a fence and I was automatically no, no due to the fact of the process. I stand firm to what I say. The process is the process, and I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. We have to get better, and we will be better. We heard you, we understand you, we respect you. When you speak about being transparent, that's what you got to learn off of. We learn off of that and we'll grow from that. No one's perfect. However, my last 2 years, I'm going to do my responsibilities I need to do. I'm going to take on the responsibilities and make sure that we do what we're supposed to do regardless. It's not an easy process. Some of you guys may not agree with Superintendent Shirley as far as what's going on. However, at the end of the day, we all got to be in this for the children and for our students. That's what happens. So by the money and by the increase of it, hey, I'm going to just vote yes for that. But overall, I'm not going to back down to my feelings, how I feel about it. Things have to get better and the process will get better. Thank you.
Colin?
I apologize for any background noise, but there's not much more I can add to everyone. There has never been a perfect budget passed in the history of any school district. Collectively, from our families, my colleagues board, the school administration, our partners in the city and the state, we all do our best and try to do better next time. Thank you.
For me, we have been, I don't remember which board member stated it, but we've been on the phone since first thing in the morning, having discussions, asking questions, trying to make things work. I think sometimes the public thinks that we don't listen, but public comment is very powerful and we are listening. Part of the conversation today was also, how do we move forward from here in a very different way and productive way, having discussions, brainstorming, and doing all kinds of different, things differently. Yes, there have been mistakes. Yes, things have gone a little bit fast. However, like we have to tell these staff members by July 1st, that they have their jobs back. You know, we talk about how it's moving too fast, but at the same time, we have to consider the staff, and they have to go home and go to sleep. They have to go home and be able to put their head on their pillow and know that they still have a job tomorrow. And we also have to think about the team that has to reinstate all of these positions. We're right now only giving them at least 5 business days to reinstate all these individuals. So they are going to work triple time in order to get everybody reinstated. So again, we are listening. We will be making changes. We will be trying to be more transparent than different ways, conversations. Don't forget to email it. That's what the email's for, reaching out to us, reaching out to your district representatives. And also, I will be voting yes today for the budget.
Chairperson, can I say something?
Yes. Go ahead.
So I would like to just take a moment to extend my deepest gratitude to all of you in the Board of Education and your leadership through this process. Mayor Rilling, thank you not only for the $6 million, but for the additional $500,000 that will help restore some of our essential staff across the district. And Senator Duff, for your steady fast support and for the additional resources that have been allocated to our district. Your commitment to the success of our schools and the well-being of our students is deeply appreciated, and we will have a meaningful impact through this process to continue to provide the highest quality education possible for our scholars. Thanks to your efforts, we will be able to significantly reduce the number of reductions we initially anticipated across the organization. This vital support will help us maintain the stability of our programs and services, ensuring that we remain focused on the success of every student every day. This budget cycle has not been an easy one. It has tested us in many ways and reminded us of the complexities involved in balancing resources with growing needs. However, it has also served as a time of growth. We have learned a great deal throughout this process. We are committed to using these lessons to adapt, improve, and better align our work with the needs of our students and families we serve. I also want to express a sincere appreciation to our parents and guardians. Your feedback, input, and continued engagement has been invaluable. You have helped us inform the work we do and have played a crucial role in shaping how we will grow and develop our practice moving forward. Your voice is essential and is our shared mission to provide an inclusive and supported learning environment for all. As we look ahead to the upcoming year, we do so with renewed resolve and unwavering focus on equity, excellence, and community partnership. Together, we will continue to work forward with purpose and shape our vision to be stronger and more resilient and develop a more resilient school system. I want to thank you again all for your leadership, for your dedication, and for your commitment for the future of Norwalk, because our children are the future. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. So I would like a motion for the approval of the FY26 operating budget reconciliation with the addition of the 500,000. Thank you, Mayor Rilling, for the addition of the SPED position. And what was this second position?
Itinerant assistant principal for pre-K and elementary special education.
Okay, thank you. So I need a motion, please.
Motion, McCready.
Mary Ellen, seconded by
Sherry McCready.
Kara. Oh, Sherry. Okay, Kara. All in favor, please say aye. Raise your hands.
Aye.
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 That's unanimous. Oh, I want to say thank you to everyone. I know it's been a very, very difficult past few weeks. This is the hardest budget season that I have ever had in 6 years. I am very honored to have worked with all of you, and I look forward to moving forward from here, from what we have learned, and putting everything that we have learned into practice for the new year. And with that being said,
Madam Chair, if I could say a couple of words.
Yes, sir.
In the past 12 years, this has also been the most difficult budget season for me. We try to do everything we can Obviously, we can't do everything, but I do want to thank Senator Duff for his partnership, for his leadership, because without him and the city working together, we would be in a different situation than we are right now. So again, we think, number one, it is our scholars, our teachers, to make sure that we provide a world-class education for our children. And if you look at the record of us compared to other cities in the state of Connecticut, I think we're on the right track. It's constantly improving, and we need to go forward and upward from this point, and make sure that we do everything we can. And I want to thank the parents for coming out. You know, this is it's the Board of Education, it's the parents, it's the unions, it's the teachers, it's the superintendent, and it's the city and the state working together, making sure that we can do everything possible to make Norwalk a world-class education for our students. That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Harry.
All right, well,
Thank
thank
you,
you,
Mary.
everyone. And motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Thank you, Jasmine, Karen, Janine. Have a good night, everyone.